Welcome back, dreamers, wanderers, and night travelers. If you've been with me on this journey, you'll remember last Friday's tales of city glow and modern myths, neon signs that hummed like omens, flickering street lamps that seemed to whisper stories. But outside the cities, far beyond the towers of glass and electric glare, another kind of light waits for the night. On lonely roads, in open fields, or hovering just above the surface of a still, black lake, phantom lanterns flicker, lights with no lamp, flames with no fire, some guiding, some deceiving, some simply watching. To those just finding us, welcome. You've wandered into Dusk and Dreams. I'm your host, Yarrow. But on Friday nights, I let my alter ego, YLDragons, take wing and take the lead. Your guide through the wilder side of night and the darker, half-lit places where memory, myth, and midnight all blur together. And tonight, we follow them. The lanterns of folklore, those ghost lights whispered of, the lures of science and mystery, and maybe, just maybe, the messengers of something deeper. So join me by the campfire, pull your coat close against the wind, and if you choose to wander the forest paths, rivers, or skies, do so lightly and keep your eyes ahead, because the night is about to glow. Long before maps and satellites, the night was a wilderness of shadows. Every flicker meant something. A fire could mean safety or danger. So when strange lights rose from bogs or deserts or deep lakes, our ancestors didn't shrug. They listened, and they told stories. When I let my imagination run free and travel back to times like that, I know I sure would come up with some fanciful explanations for things that glowed in the night. Imagine, you're alone, walking a marsh road at night. The mist rises, thick and silvery, curling around the roots of half-submerged trees. The ground squelches with each careful step, and somewhere in the dark, water drips, steady, deliberate, like the tapping of a hidden clock. And then you see it. A glow, small, wavering, as though someone ahead carries a lantern. A fellow traveler, perhaps, leading the way across treacherous ground. Relief rushes through you, because in the dark, in the marsh, light means safety. Fire means warmth. A lantern means you are not alone. But when you follow, step after step, eyes locked on that bobbing glow, it always drifts just a little further, never closer, never still. European folklore is riddled with stories of these phantom lights, especially in marshes, bogs, and lonely moors. They appear suddenly, flickering blue or pale white, and lure wanderers off safe paths. People called them many names: jack-o'-lantern in Ireland, Irrlicht in Germany, fatuus ignis, fool's fire in medieval Latin. But no matter the tongue, the story was the same. Follow the light, and you're lost. Some said the wisp was the soul of a wicked man, barred from heaven, rejected by hell, condemned to wander the earth with only a tiny flame to mock him. Others swore it was the devil himself, tempting travelers deeper into the swamp, where they would drown or vanish forever. In some regions, people whispered that it was fairies, mischievous and cruel, playing games with mortals. In others, it was the restless dead. ghosts holding lanterns, beckoning the living into their cold, watery graves. To peasants and wanderers, these tales were more than fireside warnings. They were explanations for real danger. Marshlands were treacherous, full of sinkholes and sucking mud. One wrong step could drag a person under. And in the dark, when someone swore they saw a flame moving, how else could they explain it but as a spirit with intent? The will-o'-the-wisp wasn't always evil, though. In some Scottish and Welsh tales, it could be a guide, a light leading lost travelers home, a lantern carried by a spirit of kindness. But even then, you never knew until too late. Was the glow a promise of safety or a lure into the abyss? This is what made the wisp so terrifying. It was ambiguous. It wasn't the obvious monster with teeth and claws. It was subtler. It preyed on your hope, on your desperation for connection, on that deep human instinct that says, if there's fire in the dark, follow it. And what happens when the light betrays you? When the very thing you thought would save you leads you deeper into danger? That's why the will-o'-the-wisp still haunts our imagination. Because it isn't just a story about marshes, it's a story about misplaced trust, about the lies we follow, thinking they'll keep us safe, when in fact, they're pulling us further into the mire. I mean, think about it. How many times in life have we chased a flicker of hope that wasn't what it seemed, a promise that glowed just brightly enough to keep us walking, only to vanish when we needed it most? That's the lesson of the wisp. It teaches us not all light in the dark is to be trusted. And yet, part of you still wonders, if you saw a pale flame drifting just ahead on a misty road, could you resist following it? Could you ignore the glow and walk on in the cold, lonely dark? Or would you risk it, knowing it might guide you, knowing it might destroy you? There's ghost lights too in the marshlands of Bengal. There, the night is never truly still. The rivers breathe, the mangroves whisper, the air hangs thick, warm, filled with the hum of insects and the distant call of unseen birds. For centuries, fishermen have set out under the cover of darkness, poles balanced on their shoulders, boats slipping silently across black water. The river gives life here, but it also takes. And the light spoke of there? Small, eerie flames that hover just above the water, glowing in the mist like candles balanced on invisible hands. Locals call them Aleya. To an outsider, they might look like playful sparks, dancing low over the marsh. But to those who know these waters, the Aleya are no simple trick. They are omens, messengers. Sometimes they are traps. Fishermen tell of rowing toward the glow, hoping to find another boat or a fire on shore to guide them safely back. Instead, they are led deeper into the swamp, where the waters coil into endless channels, and the mud can suck a man down in silence. The legend says these ghost lights are the souls of fishermen who drowned in these very waters, spirits who never found their way home. Some stories say they burn with anger, luring the living to join them in the river's depths. Others insist they are warnings, ancestral spirits trying desperately to keep their kin from following the same fate. It's this uncertainty that lingers, The Aleya are not monsters with claws. They do not shriek or strike. They just glow, quietly, insistently, beckoning. And in a place where life and death are already balanced so precariously on the current, even the faintest flame can feel like judgment. And to this day, some say if you ever see an Aleya, you should immediately bow your head and offer respect, because it might be your ancestor's soul, lingering, watching, remembering. Others insist you should turn your back and never, ever follow, because to follow is to surrender your life to the swamp. But tell me, if you were out there, standing on the bow of a small wooden boat, the river wide and black beneath you, and a light appeared just above the water, glowing steady in the mist, what would you do? Would you trust the flame as a guide? Or would you row the other way, unsure if what awaits beneath the surface is older, hungrier, and patient enough to wait for your mistake? But the open waters are not the only place where ghostly lights visit us. In the wide open plains of West Texas, just outside the tiny town of Marfa, there's a stretch of desert where the night sky seems infinite. Out here, the horizon is so flat you can see for miles, broken only by low mountains shadowed in the distance. The stars spill across the heavens in a breathtaking sprawl. And here, the lights are glowing orbs that hover just above the desert floor. They shimmer from blue to white, sometimes pulsing, sometimes darting erratically, splitting apart and rejoining as though playing some private game. They're not headlights. They're not lanterns. They appear in places where no road runs, no house stands, and no human could possibly be walking with a torch. And people have been seeing them for well over a century. The first recorded sighting dates back to the 1880s, when ranchers driving cattle through the desert reported mysterious dancing lights along the horizon. At first, they thought it must be Apache campfires, but when they rode closer, the lights retreated, always distant, always untouchable. Today, hundreds of people still flock to the official Marfa Lights viewing center along Highway 90, hoping to catch a glimpse. And guess what? Many still do. Visitors describe lights that split into two, then vanish, orbs that hover for minutes, then dart away at impossible speeds. Some swear the lights respond to sound, clapping, calling out, even to certain rhythmic music. Others say they move with an intelligence, watching, circling, teasing. Scientists, of course, have tried to explain them. Atmospheric mirages, heat shimmering, refracting car headlights from highways miles away, gases igniting in the desert air, the tricks of tired eyes staring too long at the horizon. And yes, sometimes car lights do play a role. But here's the mystery. There are countless sightings in places, and at times, where no cars could possibly account for what people saw. And unlike the will-o'-the-wisp or the Aleya, the Marfa Lights belong to our modern age. People still film them, post them online. Scientists set up equipment, trying to triangulate the source. And yet, they remain stubbornly unexplained. What makes them so unsettling isn't just the glow itself, it's the vastness around them. Out there in the desert, under a dome of stars, the silence is immense. The night feels endless, and when a light suddenly appears where none should be, it's as if the desert itself has decided to remind you that you are not alone. A shift in the air, a prickle at the base of your neck, the uncanny sense of being observed across miles of empty plain. And that's the haunting beauty of the Marfa Lights. They are, quite literally, lights in the dark, yet they refuse to explain themselves. They ask you to stand there in the silence of the desert night and wonder, are you looking at fire, at spirit, at science, or at something entirely outside our understanding? So, I'll ask again. If you were standing on that viewing platform under the Texas stars, and a light began to dance across the horizon, splitting, pulsing, then hovering steadily as though waiting, what would you do? Would you grab your phone to record it? Or would you simply stand still, letting the mystery seep into you, unfiltered, untamed? Before deciding, perhaps even before we decide whether these stories of ghost lights from around the world are of omens or spirits at all, let's bring them into the laboratory for a bit, because science has its own stories to tell. The first and perhaps most obvious explanation is chemical. Marshes and swamps, where many of these sightings occur, are rich with decaying plant matter. As it rots, it releases gases, methane, phosphine, diphosphane, invisible by day. But under the right conditions, those gases can ignite spontaneously when they contact oxygen, a flicker, a flame that hovers above the water, feeding itself on the swamp's breath. And suddenly, your will-o'-the-wisp is not a spirit at all, but chemistry doing its slow, invisible work. It's a tidy explanation, except it doesn't always fit. Many witnesses describe lights that move against the wind, lights that split and rejoin, lights that hover for hours. Chemical flames, even if they spark, should burn out quickly. They don't behave with the almost playful intelligence that countless legends describe. Then, of course, there's biology, bioluminescence, the natural glow of life itself. Creatures of the deep ocean wield it spectacularly, but there are land-bound examples too. Fireflies flashing in warm grass, fungi glowing faint green in rotting logs. Could swarming insects or luminous spores trick a tired traveler into seeing something more? Absolutely, especially in humid, swampy regions where fireflies cluster. But again, bioluminescence tends to be fleeting, localized, or rhythmic. It rarely creates those bright, orb-like globes described in places like Marfa. Next, the atmosphere itself. Have you ever looked down a hot road in summer and seen water shimmering that isn't there? That's a mirage, light bent by layers of heat and density in the air. Scientists suspect the Marfa Lights may sometimes be exactly that. Distant car headlights or campfires refracted and duplicated by the desert's strange layers of air. It's why skeptics often shrug and say, it's just physics, no need for ghosts. And yet, visitors insist they've seen lights when no cars were anywhere nearby. Lights that rose high above the ground, split into two, or darted with a speed that doesn't match refracted beams. Pilots flying over Texas skies have described lights appearing above them, not across the horizon. A mirage can explain some sightings, but not all. There's also electricity itself. Earthquake lights, rare bursts of luminescence caused by tectonic stress, have been documented around the world. Plasma discharges in the atmosphere can create floating orbs of light, sometimes called ball lightning, though no one fully understands how they work. These could account for strange orbs that appear during storms or in geologically active regions. And yet ball lightning is so elusive that most scientists admit we still don't know exactly why it forms. And finally, the human eye. Our night vision is a strange, tricky thing. In low light, the rods in our retinas take over, but they can be overwhelmed, fooled, and hypersensitive. Stare too long into the dark, and your brain begins filling in gaps. A flicker of light becomes a flame. A star low on the horizon bends and dances. Your nervous system, already heightened at night for survival, amplifies tiny cues into full, vivid experiences. Neuroscience suggests some ghost lights may not be out there at all. They may be inside us, conjured by expectation, fatigue, or fear. So yes, science explains most, but not all. Chemistry, biology, physics, psychology, each with a story of why, each shining its own lantern into the dark, and yet none of them fully extinguish the mystery. And it's in that space, the not all, that folklore survives. In fact, it does more than survive. You've heard the science. Now let me share where ghost lights become more than curiosities. They become omens or warnings, lures or guardians. Sometimes blessings, sometimes curses, and sometimes something stranger. In Japan, there is a belief that when a person dies, their soul may appear as a glowing orb of fire drifting through the night. These are called hitodama, small, flickering blue-white flames about the size of a lantern, said to hover near cemeteries, temples, or the homes of the newly dead. Unlike the mischievous will-o'-the-wisp, hitodama are not tricksters. They are gentle, somber reminders that life has left a body, the soul setting off on its journey. In many tales, villagers who saw a hitodama floating through the trees would bow their heads or whisper prayers, acknowledging the soul's passage. To ignore or mock it was considered disrespectful, even dangerous. Modern skeptics suggest they might have been foxfire fungi or swamp gases. But when you imagine a loved one's spirit, softly glowing, lingering just long enough for you to glimpse it before fading into the dark, science feels too small a box to hold the weight of that meaning. And then there are the min lights of Australia's outback. Travelers describe them as bright, floating orbs, white, sometimes green, that hover just above the ground. Unlike other ghost lights, these don't simply flicker and vanish. They follow for hours. Imagine walking a lonely road under the southern stars, only to notice a glow at the edge of your vision. You stop. It stops. You walk. It follows. No matter how far or fast you go, the min light keeps pace. Like the hitodama, some Aboriginal stories describe them as spirits of the dead. However, unlike the gentle soft glow that lingers only for a moment, the min light is said to be guardians warning travelers to respect the land, and others as tricksters, luring the careless into danger. The unsettling thing is the persistence. This isn't a flicker you can explain away. The min seem deliberate, as if they choose you. Contrast that to the ghost lights of Brazil. There we find they are far less gentle. They call them Boitatá, the fiery serpent. The story goes that Boitatá was once a creature of the earth, a serpent cursed or blessed with flames. It slithers through forests and rivers, its body glowing with living fire. At times, it appears as small spheres of flame darting through the night, terrifying travelers. At others, it becomes a colossal serpent, eyes blazing, defending the natural world from those who would harm it. To see Boitatá was a dangerous omen. Some said it was a spirit punishing those who set fire carelessly to the land. Others believed it lured greedy hunters or loggers deep into the forest, never to return. But a few stories frame it differently, as a protector spirit, guiding the pure-hearted away from danger with its fiery glow. So in Brazil, when you glimpse a mysterious flame moving through the night, you don't just see a light. You might be looking into the watchful eyes of the forest itself. And now, we turn to one of my favorites, a most intriguing mix of folklore, fear, and modern mystery. Let's fly out to Lake Paselka in eastern Finland. Here we find a lesser-known legend, but a powerful pull all the same. Locals whisper of glowing orbs that rise from the lake's black waters, small balls of light that hover silently above its surface, sometimes darting across like the-Wisps, sometimes floating eerily close to boats. They call them the Paselka devils. One thing that makes these lights stand apart is their reputation for malice. The lights are said to appear most often on stormy nights, when waves churned and the sky roared. Fishermen claim they will follow boats across the water, weaving close enough to make the hair rise on the back of your neck. For generations, locals have warned that the lights are omens of misfortune, that to see one meant sickness, ruin, or death. Some whisper they are the eyes of the lake itself, a spirit watching, measuring, deciding who belonged and who did not. And unlike the majority of ghostlight legends, the Paselka devils have been seen well into modern times. Tourists have caught them in photographs. Videos show strange orbs drifting over the black water. Scientists studied the area, suspecting some magnetic anomaly in the lake's bedrock, but no clear explanation has ever been agreed upon. It's one thing to hear a tale of ghost lights whispered across centuries. It is entirely different to watch one hover above the water with your own eyes. From the will-o'-the-wisp to the Marfa Lights, Japan's wandering souls to Finland's eerie watchers, ghost lights appear everywhere, yet never mean the same thing. sometimes protectors, sometimes punishers, sometimes just the unknowable flicker between worlds. But across cultures, one theme shines. Ghost lights don't just illuminate the dark, they speak through it. They are the night's way of telling us, pay attention. You are never as alone as you think. Then again, that's the real question, right? The question that lingers after all the legends have been told. Why do we still see them? In a world of satellites and quantum computing, smartphones, and even headlights that can pierce a mile of night road, why do people, even now, continue to swear they've witnessed ghost lights? The truth might be equal parts biology, psychology, and something we still don't quite have language for. So, let's think about this for a bit. First, let's look at our eyes. The human eye is astonishing, but it has its limits. At night, your vision relies on rod cells, which are excellent at detecting faint light, but terrible at color and detail. Your brain fills in the gaps. A flicker of phosphorescent fungus, a reflection off mist. Even a faint star low on the horizon can register as something far stranger than it really is. Add in a phenomenon called the Purkinje effect. At low light, your eyes shift toward being more sensitive to blue-green wavelengths. That's why so many ghost lights are described as bluish or greenish. Your biology itself makes you predisposed to see ghost lights glow in those colors. But the story doesn't stop with the eye. At night, your brain changes how it processes input. Without daytime distractions, every sound, every flicker, every anomaly is amplified. The amygdala, your brain's fear center, is more sensitive in darkness. That means you're quicker to interpret something as threatening or meaningful when seen at night. Layer on cultural memory, like if you've grown up hearing that strange lights in the marsh mean danger, your brain will leap to that conclusion the instant it catches a flicker. Or if your community tells stories of spirits appearing as fireballs, your subconscious is already primed to interpret the anomaly as a soul on the move. This is how folklore and neuroscience dance together. One builds the story, the other feeds the reaction. And then there's another fascinating piece. Scientists studying perception know that expectation alters what we see. They call it top-down processing. Meaning, if you walk through the desert expecting emptiness, you might dismiss a flicker of light as a plane or a star. But if you walk through the desert already thinking of the Marfa Lights, your brain is more likely to pull that flicker into a pattern, to shape it into something mysterious. This doesn't mean the lights aren't real. It just means that our interpretation of them is inseparable from the stories we've inherited. The brain is not a camera. It's a storyteller. And in the dark, the storyteller runs wild. And of course, we can't dismiss the evolutionary angle. Our ancestors who paid attention to strange lights at night, whether they were predators' eyes, distant fires, or reflections off water, were more likely to survive. That vigilance became wired into us. Even now, when you see a light flicker on a lonely road or in a dark forest, you feel that primal pull, a tension in your gut, an urge to watch, to wonder, to move carefully. Whether the light is bioluminescence, swamp gas, headlights refracted, or something we haven't explained yet, your body reacts as if it matters deeply, because to your nervous system it does. But I have a theory, and just maybe this is the most important part. We keep seeing ghost lights because we need to. They're the meeting point of our rational science and our mythic imagination. The desert horizon is real. The light is real. But what it means, that's where the magic lives. They remind us that not everything can be fully explained away, that mystery still has a place in the night, that somewhere between the neurons firing in our eyes and the stories humming in our bones, there will always be room for wonder. So yes, sometimes a light is just methane gas igniting or headlights refracted. But sometimes the light in the distance is more than the sum of its photons. It is a mirror, a messenger, a reminder that even now, in our wired and weary age, the night still has secrets worth chasing. So let's go back to the question I've posed several times tonight. Picture this with me. You're standing alone, no lamps, no houses, just the open road stretching ahead, its gravel crunching faintly under your feet. The sky above you is endless, a velvet canopy pierced with stars, the kind of dark that feels alive, like it's holding its breath. And then, there it is, a glow where no lamp should be, hovering, flickering, sliding slowly from side to side, as though testing whether you'll notice. What do you do? Do you take a step forward, letting curiosity lead? Do you turn back, pulse quickening, clinging to safety? Or do you simply stop? Let the night press close, wrap you in its silence, and stand as a witness to the strange glow watching you back. Because that's the truth of ghost lights. They might be natural gases rising from a swamp, the trick of your night-dazzled eyes. Or maybe the shimmer of distant headlights refracted through layers of desert air. Perhaps, though, there's something older, stranger. A reminder that not every corner of this earth bends to explanation. Either way, they whisper the same truth. The world still has edges not yet mapped. And even in this wired, measured, data-driven age, some mysteries remain untamed. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly how it should be. Because mystery is the heartbeat of the night. Without it, the dark becomes just absence. But with it, the night comes alive. And within that aliveness, we too remember a part of ourselves that still longs to wonder, to not always know, to simply stand in the hush of the unknown and feel small and curious and very, very alive. It's been a privilege to guide you through another night on Dusk and Dreams. If this podcast helps you find peace, spark creativity, or simply offers a moment of captivating escape, please consider following or subscribing wherever you listen. Your support helps us build this community of night-minded souls. We're available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Amazon, as well as many others. To learn more about the show or connect with me and the Dragons Dusk and Dreams team, visit our website at breakgrid.com or follow at Yarrow Diamond on Instagram. If tonight's journey sparked your imagination, helped you breathe a little deeper, or gave you something to ponder in the quiet hours, I'd love to hear about it, so please comment, share, or connect however best works for you. And be sure to join us next Tuesday, where I'll be back for a gentler, grounded nights episode on night rituals across cultures and how you can design your own. Until then, if you find yourself walking under the stars and see a strange light flicker in the distance, don't be too quick to dismiss it. Don't be too quick to follow either. Just pause. Notice. Listen openly with heart and mind. And remember, the night listens back.